Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Valeria and this is The Awful Trench. I planned to make a video for you on the 1st of January, but the following incident happened to me. It was the 31st of December and I was driving home late at night. I was almost at home driving through the forest when the car suddenly started making strange noises and I felt strange smell. I slowed down and the car stalled and stopped. Smoke was coming from under the hood. I opened the hood and saw thin wisps, remnants of smoke near the engine. It was less than 2 hours before New Year's Eve. I realized that I wouldn't be able to drive home. So I disconnected the battery and walked home. I was terribly scared because there are wolves and I heard their howling. I walked without stopping and I was trying to make loud noises in order to scare away wild animals. It took me more than 2 hours to get home. So I ended up celebrating New Year's Eve on the road. It was minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 20 degrees Celsius. Luckily, I had thermal underwear and warm winter clothes. While I was walking home, I started seeing multicolored zigzags in front of my eyes, and I developed a severe headache. When I got home, headache was unbearable. As it turned out, I got severe intoxication by combustion products when the car started smoking. That night, I vomited 8 times. When I was trying to drink tea with painkillers, I vomited again. After that, I felt terrible 2 more days. And I was just lay or slept all the time. Just today, I hired a tractor to tow my car home, but I don't know yet what happened to it. And only today, I feel well enough to make a video for you. I hope that this ending to the year closed the series of unpleasant events in 2025. And I hope that 2026 will be more pleasant and more productive. So please support me with your likes and we will move on to how I spent my 2025. I was absent for the entire 2025 and didn't post a single video about the progress on the Awful Trench. So today I will tell you and show you what happened on the Awful Trench and what it cost me in moral, financial and physical terms. In 2025, I set ambitious goals for myself. Installing a fence, welding, painting and concreting posts, stretching PVC-coated wire mesh. Not done. Installing a well and equipping it. Building a caisson with a pump and filters, digging a trench to the house and connecting the equipment. Not done. Building a local treatment station. Tying and welding reinforcement, digging a foundation pit, creating formwork, concreting, installing a compressor and other equipment. Not done. Creation of a mini basement to the house, creation of a porch, and creating the entrance to the house for the car. I need it because my house stands on piles more than 1 meter above the ground due to high groundwater levels in autumn and springs. Not done. Installing a floodlight tower to illuminate the site, to deter wild animals and dangerous people, to provide safety and provide high-quality lighting protection. Not done. Purchase of additional containers to expand the workplace, to store materials, and to store fuels and lubricants separately from other materials. Also, restoration and painting of existing containers. Not done. Garden maintenance, pruning, feeding and harvesting. Done, but the harvest was poor this year and there is still a lot of work to be done. House improvement. To lay laminate flooring, to install the staircase, to lay flooring in the bathroom, to purchase a shower cabin, toilet, refrigerator, dishwasher, other household appliances, to purchase furniture, to design and install a custom kitchen. Minimal progress made. In reality, everything turned out to be much more complicated and expensive, and practically none of the goals were achieved. But other important work was done, and it will help in organizing construction on the site in the future. Almost all of this work was unplanned, expensive, and psychologically difficult. So, what key events can I highlight in 2025? January and February. In January and February, I had to completely rebuild my house. At the end of 2024, I realized that during severe frosts, the temperature in the house didn't rise above 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. My feet were constantly cold and I was sick. I had to hire a building inspector who found very serious flaws in the construction of the house due to the builder's negligence. Even though I participated in the construction every day, I was unable to check the quality of the construction due to lack of experience at the time. I had to completely dismantle the house, remove all the walls, add insulation beams and lintels, replace the subfloor electrical wiring and plumbing, buy and install all new paneling, repaint the house, and replace the entire large facade. That was the time when I stopped uploading videos on YouTube. Rebuilding was incredibly difficult for me. I had to sleep in a trailer for several months in the winter. I had to cook on a campfire and constantly breathe in construction dust during the construction work.
It is the middle of February and for more than a month I've been sleeping in my trailer.
It was only in March, after all the construction work was completed, when I bought a mattress, and now I no longer sleep on a camping mat on the floor. The entire renovation of the house, or rather complete dismantling and complete reassembly, cost me $17,885. For me, this is a huge amount of money which I had planned to spend on other things. Since I believe that my experience and my mistakes may be useful to others, I will tell in more detail in other videos about the reconstruction. Despite the construction work, in January I finished cutting the metal for welding the reinforcement frame for the local treatment station. In February, I started crushing wood chips from the fruit trees that I had been cutting down for 2 years on my site. 3 years ago, on the place where my house stands now, there was an abandoned garden. March and April. After the construction was completed, I spent the entire March and April crushing and drying wood chips. I spent 12 hours a day crushing. My whole body ached. My hands were scratched by wild apricot trees and dry branches. When drying, the wood chips took up more than 100 square meters. I created several mini shelters for them out of pellets and plastic sheeting. After drying the wood chips, I was able to sell some of them. I made almost $10,000 from them, and it was a good end to this stage of the work for me. And I was finally able to start learning how to weld. Welding is a planned and necessary work, as I need to weld a lot of things. Reinforcement for the local treatment station, fence posts, dust and water protection covers for the compressor and generator, a ramp for the car, as well as the car itself, and many other things. In addition, welding is a universal skill which will help me to survive and earn money in any economic situation. In the spring, I had no welding expenses because I had purchased all the welding equipment earlier in 2024, and it cost me about $450. Also, when the weather got warm and stable, I treated the front of the house and the large porch with protective oil and wax, which I also bought in advance and which cost me $195. May, June and July. I realized that due to the renovation of the house, I wouldn't be able to continue construction by the summer. So I took up gardening, which will bring me income next year and in the future. I started planting a blueberry field and growing mushrooms. Today I have 25 blueberry bushes, and it was a huge work. First, I had to dig 5 trenches more than 7 meters long, 70 centimeters wide and 1 meter deep. This was necessary in order to create the right soil. Blueberries thrive in acidic soil, but I mostly have clay and rocks. In order to create right substrate, I bought bark, sawdust, acidic peat, sulfur for soil acidification, beneficial bacteria, and hay. I created acidic soil in each trench in specific proportions. I also raised the soil level by 1 meter from the current zero level, as I will need to raise the level of the entire plot in the future. The cost of blueberries to date has been more than $2,500, including tools and fuels. However, my costs are not just financial. I spent more than 3 months creating the right soil and raising the ground level. Every day I carried dozens of wheelbarrows of soil. In total, the volume of the soil was more than 70 cubic meters, which is about 80-90 tons in weight. I will show you all the process and results when I have harvested this year. Fortunately, my friend joined me, visiting me whenever they could on weekends, which gave me great motivation to continue working. It is incredibly difficult to manage such a large amount of work alone. Also in the spring, my friend suggested me to grow mushrooms, and I gladly agreed. There were still some patches of forest on my land, which were damp and cool, and I decided that this is a perfect place for mushrooms. I bought oyster mycelium and 5 cubic meters of low-grade wood that was unsuitable for commercial use. The oyster mycelium cost me $160. Woods for mushrooms cost me $360. However, money is only a small part of it. I dug a separate 5-meter long trench, sawed about 101 meter long logs, and built a structure out of logs as tall as I am. My friends also helped me build the structure out of logs. I can saw these logs and I can roll them on the ground, but I cannot roll them uphill by myself. Since such a large amount of logs requires a lot of mycelium, I decided to grow mycelium myself from the one I bought. However, the technology of growing mycelium is very complex and requires sterile conditions. I bought grain and alcohol for disinfection, of course, and tried to cultivate mycelium 3 times. I wasted 90% of the material on unsuccessful attempts, but my experience were worth it. On the 3rd attempt, mycelium began to sprout from the grain. Only then did I drill a 30 centimeter holes in each log, disinfect them, and started planting oyster mycelium. While drilling into the wood, the hammer drill burned out, and it stopped work for several more weeks. Today my mushrooms are slowly growing and I'm constantly monitoring their progress. But currently they are under a thick layer of snow, and I hope that in the spring I will be able to try them and to show them to you. Also in the summer I took first steps in building a fence. I bought metal pipes, fasteners for wire mesh, paint, a compressor and equipment for it, cables, hoses, a spray gun and so on. It cost me $6,750. However, in the summer it turned out that my old Jeep was in very poor condition. The bottom, spars, arches, front struts became too rusty. The electrical system was also worn out due to age and constant dampness. The fuel pump started to fail, and the wiring for the headlights and interior lighting often shorted out. I had to spend all the money that I saved after reconstruction of the house on a new car. I bought a 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee VJ. This is the next generation after the ZJ. By the end of the year, I spent around $2,500 on its maintenance. I replaced the penery rod, front axle cross members, constant velocity joints, a steering damper, springs, and so on. And again, construction at the off-road range, installing a fence, building of a local treatment station, building a well, was postponed indefinitely. Also, at the end of the spring, I felt unwell and went to see a doctor. And in August, after consultations and analysis, I had surgery and I had to quit all physical activities for several weeks, which meant that all work at the off-road range was stopped. Consultations, analysis, treatment and surgery cost me around $4,000. If you have a desire to support the development of the off-road range and the development of my YouTube channel, there is links to donations in the video description. August. After buying a new car, a question arose of where to store my old ZJ Jeep, since I'm not going to sell it. I will start restoring it after finishing installing a fence and all other construction at the off-road range. Therefore, in August, I built a shed next to the container near the house where the car is now stored. Wood and screws for the shed cost $700. Unfortunately, I didn't think through the design and project of the shed properly, so it needs to be completely redone. To start with, it puts a lot of weight on one wall of the container. Further, it doesn't ventilate and there is mold on the wood, on the posts and roof. And finally, the awning is of poor quality and leaks water, although it is waterproof according to the specification. Also in August, I leased 2,500 square meters of land where I plan to start farming. You may remember that I also lease 7,500 square meters where I have my containers and where I grow blueberries and mushrooms. In the April, my rent was raised, and in the August, I was strictly recommended to buy out all the leased land. Therefore, in 2026, I plan to buy out all the land, especially since I plan to continue construction there in the future. Also, in August, I started building composters for different types of waste. Firstly, it is environmentally friendly and safe. Second, this volume and size will be enough for me for several years. And thirdly, after a few years, this waste will be recycled into new fertile soil enriched with nutrients, and I can use it for my soil and for my plants. However, I didn't have enough time to finish construction. When I continue building, I will make a separate video and I will tell you about all the advantages. September, October and November. In September, I had a terrible occasion. My phone was stolen. For me, a phone is not just a means of communication, and not just a place to store documents and video material, and not just a way to make videos. For me, a phone is access to my accounts. Through my phone, I got access to the cryptocurrency exchange where I kept funds specifically for trading on the cryptocurrency market. Firstly, I didn't realize that my phone was stolen. I thought that I lost it somewhere in the ground on my land. For example, because of my inattention, because I use my phone for making videos. Since my property is more than 10,000 square meters, I spent 5 weeks trying to find my phone. I borrowed a metal detector from my friends, and the 6 of us take turns trying to find a phone around the clock for 5 weeks. The problem was that at the time of theft, I had an open position and an open order to sell Bitcoin. I also had additional funds on my funding account, Earn, which I could transfer to my unified trading account in order to avoid liquidation due to market volatility. But two-factor authentication was enabled only on the phone, so I couldn't gain access to my account. And also, I couldn't get access via SMS because I didn't have my phone. So I found myself in a situation when, following all information security rules, I couldn't get access to my own accounts because I hadn't predicted the situation when I didn't have my phone. When I realized that I wouldn't find my phone easily, I went to get my SIM card replaced. Due to complications with paperwork and processes, replacement of the SIM card also took some time. And by the time I regained access to my exchange, my whole trading balance of around $20,000 had been liquidated. If I had been able to transfer the money from my funding account, Earn, to my unified trading account, the order would have executed shortly afterward without liquidation, resulting in a huge profit, tripling my balance. But this didn't happen because I didn't have access to my funds and settings. The liquidation amount equaled the loss limit for 3 months, so I only resumed trading in December. This was money I planned to use for the construction on the off-road range for the 3rd time in 2025. This hit me hard, and I realized that in 2025 I wouldn't see a well, a local treatment station, or a fence. Well, that's life. Anyway, I had to continue working on the site. So in September, October, and November, using the money that I had left, I built an extension next to the container. My friends helped me again, giving up their weekend to come and help me lay the locks and attach USB boards as walls. They helped me to design and to build a 4-meter high, 32 square meter extension. Now I use it to weld fence posts and for custom welding jobs when I have the opportunity. In early December, I put a stove in there. It's much faster and more comfortable to work in warm conditions. To date, I'm impressed with the construction of the extension, but I will be able to evaluate its real quality only in the spring, when it gets warm and I can see if there is any mold and if the roof is well ventilated. I don't have video of construction because I didn't have a phone at that time, but I will make a separate video of construction of the extension and show you. The extension cost me $640. This includes ropes, screws, paint and other tools. I bought OSB boards earlier in 2024, but if I would buy them now, it would cost me more than $2,000 with delivery. Also, in the fall, finally, I laid the laminate flooring that I stored in a container for over a year and a half. And also, I finally installed the staircase, which was also made 1.5 years ago. Installing the staircase in laminate flooring cost me $600. After that, in October and November, I bought some old used furniture. A table, chairs, a sofa, a dresser, and an old office cabinet, which I use instead of a kitchen. Finally, I can store my belongings in a dresser instead of plastic bags on the floor. Finally, I can work in a comfortable chair or on the sofa. Finally, I can cook on the table and store dishes and groceries on shelves. Before that, I had only one plate, one mug, and one spoon. Finally, I can walk barefoot and sit at home in clean pajamas instead of breathing in construction dust from the rough floor. If the house had been built well from the start, I would have had all of this for more than a year ago. But even now, it's a huge achievement and relief for me. In December, I finished work that I hadn't completed earlier. I finished painting the extension, prepared boards for composters, sawed logs for firewood, and also welded fence posts. In addition, in December, I started to plan to return to YouTube, and I was thinking about the material that would be interesting to my subscribers. Also, in December, we launched our project, a decentralized, fully distributed, and fault-tolerant hedge fund. We faced a huge amount of difficulties, and we are facing them now. Today, we are focusing on establishing partnerships. We are searching for a high-quality platform that could provide stable service and quick feedback. Also, we are focusing on a maximum fault tolerant, both in terms of business logic and infrastructure. As the project develops, we will expand our staff, and we will need various specialists. If you would like to send me your CV, please send a link to your profile or your CV by email or in private messages in Instagram. Also, the good news for me is that I fully repaid the loan for the 2,500 square meters of land where my mini house stands now. However, I still need to repay my former boss and my friends. And also, I need to buy out the leased land. And I don't know when I will be able to earn money for these needs. Well, friends, that was my 2025. It was eventful, but at the same time, I didn't achieve goals that I wanted. I had to spend money on things that I didn't plan, but without that, my survival would have been impossible. But even though my list of goals for 2025 hasn't been completed at all, and even though the progress is very slow, there is still a progress on the offer range, which means that step by step, the main goal is closer and closer. I want to express my immense gratitude to my friends who supported me throughout the year. They supported me morally, physically, and financially. And without them, many of my goals would have been impossible to achieve. They were here when my times were hard and tough. And it was only their support that kept me from straying from my chosen path, that kept me from abandoning the project. Despite all the difficulties, I believe that people should choose meaningful, ambitious goals, so that they always have a purpose and a motivation to work. Nothing comes easy, And the easiest path is to set goals that you can achieve without any efforts. But this often makes life meaningless and boring. Despite the difficulties, you need to move to your goals in order to achieve the results. And you shouldn't be afraid of intermediate goals if they lead to the main ones. This year, based on the results of 2025, I will move forward. And I hope to improve my YouTube channel while working on the offer range and also other parallel projects. And I hope to build a team if resources allow me. Dear friends, I'm happy to be back. You've waited a long time for me, but it was a thorny path to return. It took me a lot of money, billions of nerve cells, and thousands of hours of hard physical labor with my own hands. I am grateful for your patience, and I promise to upload videos to YouTube as soon as I have enough quality material to share. Dear friends, support me with your likes, comments and subscriptions. It was Valeria, the Offer Range. I wish you all the best and see you soon.